Okay, let's jump right into one of the absolute most fascinating corporate pivots we've seen on the market recently. Because when AI communication meets Homeland security, we really have to ask, is Nexera Technologies' massive ambition a reality, or is it just a mirage? In this explainer, we're going to put them right under the microscope. We're looking at a company trying to bridge two entirely different worlds, and honestly, the sheer contrast between their big public announcements and their actual financial reality is just captivating.
Think about the sheer scale of ambition here for a second. We're talking about a company trying to break into the global security sector. This is a highly guarded, heavily regulated space, usually dominated by massive, entrenched defense contractors with decades of history. And yet, here we have a microcap company trying to position itself right at the bleeding edge of artificial intelligence and critical infrastructure protection. How do you even begin to make a leap like that?
Well, to understand where they are right now, we kind of have to look backward. Until very recently, this company was known as Jeff's Brands, and their main gig? Selling consumer goods on the Amazon marketplace. That included pest control products. Yeah, literally bug spray. Then, in late 2025, they pull off this massive corporate rebranding to Nexera Technologies, swap their ticker symbol to NEXR, and abruptly pivot from Amazon retail to AI-driven counter-drones and military-grade radar. It's just a staggering leap.
Now, this massive expansion isn't happening under their old legacy retail brands. Actually, it's being executed entirely through a newly launched, wholly owned subsidiary called KeepZone AI. And here's the clever part. Nexera's strategy isn't to burn billions of dollars building hardware from scratch in some underground lab. Instead, they act as an integrator. They're basically taking other people's advanced tech and stitching it together into cohesive security ecosystems for things like airports, stadiums, and sensitive borders.
This strategy is brilliant in its simplicity. KeepZone is basically building a futuristic defense catalog through exclusive and non-exclusive distribution agreements. They've partnered up with developers for frictionless AI radar, stuff that spots concealed weapons in a moving crowd, plus autonomous AI security centers, and even aerial surveillance blimps. They are rapidly trying to become a one-stop shop for modern defense tech.
But all of this tech integration builds up to their real crown jewel, their flagship commercial product that officially launched in May 2026, Nexera AI. This one isn't just a distribution deal. This is a white-labeled product marketed directly under their own brand, and it targets a massive, real-world problem in emergency management: communication overload.
Imagine a chaotic emergency scenario. Command centers are just absolutely flooded with radio noise. Well, think of Nexera AI as an autonomous digital officer. It processes all those complex radio networks seamlessly at the exact same time, listening, identifying risks, and feeding everything into a single unified visual dashboard. And crucially for high-stakes defense clients, it can be run in the cloud or entirely off-grid on air-gapped on-premise servers. Basically, totally physically disconnected from the outside internet. The company is pushing this as an absolute game-changer. KeepZone CEO Alan Diane has said that it transforms command centers from drowning in radio noise to operating with instant clarity. They really want to emphasize that this is not just simple voice transcription. It's an AI that never sleeps, specifically designed to offer actionable decision support and save lives when mere seconds count. And their ambitions for Nexera AI, and honestly their broader portfolio, are truly global. We're talking Homeland security, municipal emergency management like police and fire, and critical infrastructure. They're making real geographic headway too. For instance, their recently announced authorizations to introduce structural survivability systems for fuel tanks in the energy-rich Gulf region. So they are clearly pushing hard to deploy these defense technologies worldwide. Okay, now let's pump the brakes for a second. Before we get entirely swept up in this high-tech, futuristic defense narrative, we have to take a very sharp turn into the company's financial reality. Because if you look at their stock performance over the past 12 months, Nexera has lost 98.8% of its value. That is a staggering drop and it begs a pretty massive question. If this technology is so revolutionary, why is the market absolutely punishing the stock?
Despite the globe-spanning press releases about AI and military applications, Nexera actually operates as a micro-cap stock. Their market capitalization recently hovered around just $1.79 million. To put that into perspective, the kind of global defense technology they claim to deploy usually requires tens or even hundreds of millions in capital just to survive the agonizingly slow government procurement cycles.
And when you crack open the income statement for the trailing 12 months, you see some heavy strain.
They're reporting a net income loss of $3.7 million, alongside an operating margin of negative 46.6%. Now, it's pretty normal for early-stage tech companies, or ones in the middle of a major pivot, to burn cash to grab market share. But the underlying mechanics of where their current money is actually coming from tells a completely different story. An independent Korean market analysis report actually broke down their margins, and the reveal here is fascinating. Despite this huge, flashy pivot to AI, their revenue profile still looks exactly like a legacy Amazon retailer. Their gross margins are dangerously low, sitting in the single digits, like 5.9%, or even a brutal 1.5%. True software companies usually boast margins of 60 to 80%. These single-digit numbers show that their revenue is overwhelmingly still tied to selling stuff online, not from high-margin defense contracts.
Oh, and a quick public service announcement courtesy of that same analysis report. They issued a stark warning for retail investors, especially those in Asian markets, to avoid name confusion. There's a well-established South Korean big data company called NEXR, which was recently absorbed by the massive KT Group. The report explicitly warns observers to ensure they know exactly who they're looking at. NEXR is the Israeli e-commerce and budding security firm. It is not the domestic Korean tech giant. That's a super critical detail if you're trying to evaluate market sentiment.
So here is the absolute biggest red flag highlighted by skeptical market observers: how Nexera is actually keeping the lights on. They rely heavily on what's known as toxic convertible debt financing. Because they burn so much cash, they issue debt with these things called refixing clauses. Simply put, if the stock price drops, the debt converts into more shares. More shares water down the stock, which drops the price further, which triggers even more shares. It's basically an infinite overhang loop, a financial death spiral that fundamentally destroys share value, no matter how cool their AI might be. Which leads us with this truly fascinating juxtaposition. On one hand, you have a company moving at warp speed, signing distribution and white label agreements for genuinely cutting-edge AI security systems, demonstrating tech at live VIP events, and launching platforms like Nexera AI. But on the exact same token, you have a company battling absolutely brutal capital market realities, relying on highly dilutive toxic debt, and filing SEC reports that show exactly zero commercial revenue from these new AI ventures. As they push to get Nexera AI deployed into the world's most critical command centers, Nexera is balancing on a razor's edge. Will these early distributor agreements actually secure those lucrative defense contracts? Or will the brutal, unforgiving math of their balance sheet cause this radical corporate pivot to fail completely? When AI communication meets Homeland security, it's really up to you to decide. Is Nexera Technologies' massive ambition a reality or just a financial mirage?